Good morning, dear colleagues. Welcome to this technical meeting on education for sustainable development for 2030. It is a meeting dedicated to the Arab countries. I am Mona Zogbi from UNESCO Beirut office. I will be coordinating this session. I am indeed happy to tackle the issues related to the challenges facing the region as far as education is concerned. It is a follow-up meeting to the international conference held by UNESCO in mid-May. The first task is to focus on a roadmap for education for sustainable development in the Arab region. Then our first session will be a session dedicated to numerous speakers and ministers and specialists in education from the Arab countries. Then we shall have an open discussion Q&A session. And in case you have any specific question, we should like you to send them in the section related to Q&A in the chat icon so that the speakers and panelists can give you the proper reply to those questions at the end of this session. First, we shall give the floor to specialists in education and in climate change and youth participation. First of all, I should like to draw your attention that this session will be recorded and it will be webcast on the UNESCO website and on YouTube as well. The languages used in this session are Arabic and English. Simultaneous interpretation will be available in English, Arabic, and French. And at the outset, I should like to welcome Mrs. Hana Yoshimoto, the Chief of Education Senior Program Specialist at UNESCO Regional Bureau for Education in the Arab States in Beirut. She will be delivering the opening speech. Her speech would be given in English, and if you need interpretation, you click on the interpretation and the language you are more comfortable with. You have the floor, Mrs. Hannah.
Great. Thank you so much, Mona. Excellencies, esteemed experts, colleagues, partners, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today at this regional technical meeting on education for sustainable development for 2030. Dedicated specifically for the Arab region. In mid-May, the UNESCO World Conference on ESD for 2030 was held. And over the three-day virtual event, we witnessed the vibrant discussions and debates on education and SDGs among governmental officials, experts, youth, civil society, and other stakeholders coming from all over the world. I am delighted and grateful that we gather today to build on this global event, the global framework, and to spotlight the future of education for sustainable development in the Arab region. During the conference held in May, more than 80 ministers and vice ministers, including from the Arab states, and more than 2,000 education and environment stakeholders committed to taking concrete steps to transform teaching and learning to ensure the survival and thriving of our planet. By adopting the Berlin Declaration on Education for Sustainable Development. The declaration outlines various policies to transform learning environments and processes encompassing teaching, learning, professional training, and civic engagement. It also highlights the need to implement ESD with joint emphasis on cognitive skills, social and emotional learning, and action competencies. This is especially true now as education sector continue to be affected by the global pandemic. As Audrey Azoulay, UNESCO Director General, puts it, education can be a powerful tool for transforming our relationship with nature. We must invest in this field to preserve the planet. Never has the world needed more urgent action on the environment than it does today. ESD is leading a powerful change beginning in schools and stretching all the way to lifelong learning and non-formal education. And it is at the core of reimagining education and the foundation for the required transformation. As the international community increasingly recognizes ESD as an integral part of the quality of education globally, such efforts are also imperative and far-reaching for the Arab region. Over the years, the environmental challenges cannot be underestimated. Water shortage in the area is a growing concern, with far more water being used than it is being replenished. The temperatures of the Arab region are rising faster than the global average, and the constantly evolving climate is further exacerbating water stress, undermining agricultural production, and threatening human health. Also, the marine ecosystems are plagued by overfishing and pollution, and the overexploitation and land degradation can contribute to extensive dust storms. All this requires national commitments, as well as multi-stakeholder partnerships for more effective and creative action. Nowadays, it is encouraging to see that an increasing number of stakeholders, especially the youth, as a demographic dividend in the Arab region, are becoming more involved in the movement to protect the environment, transform education, and contribute to more peaceful, sustainable societies. Their creativity, sense of responsibility, and innovation have been bringing life to this field in particular to address the climate crisis. In this respect, to further extend the required action to shape and change the world and to further reach more and more people with the necessary knowledge and skills for sustainable development, we gather today to explore the prospects of ESD for 2030 in the Arab countries. National endeavors are needed in terms of strategic planning, curriculum design, pedagogies to promote and enhance the educational reforms in the region, achieving the vision of ESD for 2030, and joining with people worldwide to provide strength for building a sustainable global environment. Thank you so very much again for attending this meeting, and I hope that today's session will be fruitful and a long-term foresight in the Arab region. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
We would like to thank Mrs. Hannah for this opening remarks. We should like to tell you that interpretation is available. As it was indicated before, this meeting is about the establishment of a roadmap for the region while tackling the many countries facing this region. We shall give the floor to Mr. Salim Shahadi, a program specialist from UNESCO Beirut office. You have the floor, Mr. Salim. Your Excellencies, experts, participants, I should like to welcome you, first of all, in this virtual meeting. We should like to thank the contributing speakers. Welcome to this technical meeting on ESD for 2030. This meeting is a follow-up to the UNESCO meeting held from the 17th to the 19th of May of this year, in addition to a virtual meeting which aims at establishing a roadmap for education for sustainable development. Such a meeting was held in November 2020. This meeting aims at reaching the roadmap with the various elements of the plan of action in order to achieve ESD for 2030. It is also an opportunity to tackle the needs of the region in order to meet the requirements of ESD for 2030. It is, in addition to this, an opportunity to reiterate once again our desire to take the necessary measures to fill the gaps. I am happy to be with you today. The roadmap for education for sustainable development. This map shows the challenges that our planet is facing today. It also focuses on the new framework for education for sustainable development, in addition to the increase of the contribution of education to sustainable development. The critical crisis facing member countries makes it necessary to make national and regional initiatives focusing on the priorities. All stakeholders should be involved. Resources should be mobilized in order to achieve these goals. UNESCO's help is sought, and such assistance should be given in order to give a further impetus to this initiative. As for the national initiatives, the member countries are called upon to mobilize all efforts in the 5 priority areas within the framework of a coordinated strategy, which is related to sustainable development. Efforts should be made in order to mobilize the resources needed and promote curricula and education tools. All stakeholders should be involved in order to achieve the goal of sustainable development at the national level. As for the objective of national initiatives, all countries that are implementing national initiatives are to secure opportunities to all in order to achieve sustainable development. There should be a proper coordination. There should be clear plans in order to promote the accession to the Sustainable Development Network. Such a network is important. There should be a need to showcase the national plans and the implementation of activities which would help achieve sustainable development goals. These plans should be linked to specific goals and objectives. As for the factors that are vital, which would secure the success, these factors are support, coordination, and flexibility in making the best use of creative ideas. As for the 5 areas where action should be implemented, policy makers do assume responsibility when it comes to the need to achieve sustainable development. There should be a support to policies that promote formal and informal education. There should be a transformation of the education and learning environment. There should be a desire to learn. There should be the prerequisites which would ensure success in the education process. Education should include factors that contribute to sustainable development. development education content should take into consideration the requirements of sustainable development. Education for sustainable development should help the learner learn about his real life and learn something that is useful for life. There should be a focus on teachers. Teachers should be well equipped in terms of training. Education should be the tool that would inculcate the values that are of help to students. Thus, students can bring about the transformation of their own societies. Such a process would secure sustainable development, and training should be organized in the pre-service and during the service stages. Youth should be involved. Young people are called upon to participate in the process of tackling climate change. All young people should be considered as the main factor and the active agents of change for sustainable development.
الدعم الذي توفره اليونسكو ستدعم اليونسكو الدول الأعضاء في تطوير وتنفيذ المبادرات.
Support that UNESCO is giving to member countries. UNESCO, with the generous support of Japan, is doing the following. It is supporting technical training to member countries. It is supporting a partnership. It is supporting the International Network for Education for Sustainable Development. It is helping in monitoring the progress achieved in the ESD, and it is also helping member countries in mobilizing resources. Thank you very much indeed for your kind attention, and I wish you all the success for this workshop. Thank you. Thank you, colleague Salim Shhada. Thank you, and you will have the floor in the closing part of our session. Now we shall give the floor to the speakers who would give us the presentations about the country initiatives. The first speaker is Rania Saikali, project coordinator from the Ministry of Education of Higher Education in Lebanon. Mrs. Branda, who is from the SUD and educational consultant for CRD, Mrs. Ibtisam Ayub, Mrs. Amna Al-Balouchi, Secretary General of the Oman National Commission for UNESCO, Dr. Riyad Tifour, Assistant Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research from Syria. Welcome to you all, and thank you for your participation in this meeting. In order to keep the time limit, please do not go beyond 7 minutes. I am happy now to introduce Mrs. Rania Saikali from Lebanon. We shall start with you, Madam, and you will be presenting the country initiative in Lebanon and the plans related to education in Lebanon. Thank you. Thank you. I should like to thank UNESCO for this opportunity to give you an idea about our country initiative in Lebanon, Education for Sustainable Development. I'm trying to share the screen, but unfortunately, I'm told that it's not possible to share the screen with you.
سليم يمكن انت بعدك عامل شير سكرين اذا
Salim, maybe you should remove your text from the screen so that Mrs. Rania would be able to share her presentation with us on the screen. You have the screen now.
نعم تفضل.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a workshop. We would like to seize this opportunity to give you an idea about what we are doing in Lebanon. And despite the major challenges which are well known to you, we are trying to put in place this plan. My presentation is divided into two parts. The first part is related to the achievements. We believe that these achievements are the result of what we have been doing for the last years. And now, as for the future, we have plans up to 2025. The Ministry of Education, Higher Education in Lebanon is working in order to promote education for sustainable development. We have a 5-year plan related to education from the perspective of the economic and social development plans in Lebanon. The vision for this strategy is about education for sustainable development. We focus on partnership and cooperation with NGOs and civil society. The second part of this strategy is health, social integration, and data collection. As for the achievements we have reached so far, our first goal was access to education. First, we have set up an electronic app for families and so that they can have access to the schools sites. We have also worked in order to refurbish and undertake the maintenance work of schools. We have a policy of protecting children.
The ministry also is doing 2 terms so that we can take into account the Syrian refugees. And of course, we have to deal with the COVID-19 in the schools. And also, we try to evaluate what we need in the future so that we will be able to receive more students in the future. For improving the quality of the data, we have started the work on SIMS and also by using the electronic means. And also we try to put into place a yearly plan that will be able, people will be able to use in the future. And also we take into account the costs and the results of the exams that will be taken during this period. For the school health, we have trained 1,245 people, and we have another program which is called WASH, which will be dealing with health problems. And also we have been working very hard because of the COVID-19. For the capabilities we managed to upgrade is that we have used the SIMS program And also, we provided training to some people according to their specialization. And also, we had established some training programs in English language for most of those who are dealing with this matter. We provided the national report on SDG4 because it helped us a lot in order to prepare for the information we need and the data we need. And of course, this had been put forward by the Ministry of Education, and it also is dealing with the progress made, and so that for SDG4 to be implemented. And we also took into account many indicators that were provided by UNESCO. This is one of the indicators that we have to work for with girls and boys, and also try to put this on the slide so that we can have an idea about the report and the quality of the data we are using and the indicator for providing equal opportunities for boys and girls. And also we refer to the sources of the information we are using. As for the priorities, which we are putting into our 5-year plan, now we have 6 priorities. The first one being the kindergartens and the preschool education. And also this will be provided free of charge for the children, and taking into account, of course, those with the special needs. Also, we provide more help for those children with disabilities. We have 30 schools, and we are trying, of course, to have more schools as one of the objectives of the 5-year plan. And of course, we will try to improve the quality. And also, we will provide training for the new teachers and providing them with good salaries. As for the heads of the schools, we will give them more authority so that they can achieve better education for the children. Also, we have done a lot on the curriculum. And this, of course, will take into account what is going on in the international community. We will give priority also the infrastructure and data that we collect and the digital information. And also, we think that those who children with disabilities can have priority by improving, of course, the infrastructure. And this made it clear that we had to do a lot because of the COVID-19. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I hope that I have presented some good information about the 5-year plan, which has been established by the Ministry of Education. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sairi, for this intervention, for enlightening us with what you are doing in Lebanon. We welcome Brenda Ghazali from the Center for Education and Development to give us an idea about what the center is doing in Lebanon, knowing that this is being undertaken right now. Dr. Brenda, you have the floor. Very good morning to you. Thanks to UNESCO and those who are helping us. We are trying to deal with the future in our center. We have now been implementing a plan that will be done in accordance with the cooperation with the Ministry of Education. And also, this will lead, of course, to better curricula in the future. And this will be done during a number of years. Now we are thinking about what we shall start. And of course, in the final analysis, will reach conclusions by the end of 22, because we are doing that in stages. We will say that we are now providing some information and we are going to achieve what we are planning for. This is the first stage, and of course we are taking into account the reality in Lebanon. What do we really need as curricula, and what are the choices we have? We are undertaking studies now for the curricula in Lebanon and the development of the education in general, and also we are undertaking studies to see what are the new developments in education and technology on the international level, so that we can be able to benefit from this. And we are working very hard in order to achieve these objectives. Of course, sustainable development is one of the important matters being dealt with internationally, and we are taking that into account. I will try to touch on some matters having to do with sustainable development and how can we put them in the curriculum. Sustainable development, of course, is extremely important, and of course, it takes into account what individuals can achieve and what do they expect. And this is extremely important, which that will help people find education. Why are we focusing on sustainable development? You know the situation in Lebanon, of course. We had so many problems, environmental problems, and now in the last years we are trying to take this into account and to follow the trend on the social media. And we will try, of course, to do as much as we can in order to take into account what is available on the international level. I would like to refer to some studies and the results we can achieve that will help us, of course, deal with that in the curriculum. And also we'll focus on the sustainable development by linking what is found on the national level to the international level. And of course, we will deal with all the matters related to that matter. And also we take into account the time frame that will allow us to achieve sustainable development. Our present curriculum is not enough and does not take into account those matters. Of course, we will go for the survey to see what the teachers really expect and how can they contribute. This, of course, should be taken into account when we decide on the curriculum. This will be even in all the subjects that we were taught. I hope that this will lead to a new curriculum that will take into account all the developments. We are convinced that the curriculum, of course, might not be easy to do for the timing, but we are doing our best in order to achieve what we can. And we will provide training for the teachers so that they can cope with the new developments. There is no sustainable development if we do not, of course, allow all these sectors to take part into that. We included this so that we can benefit from what is available on the national level. For the second stage, we will put the framework for the curriculum. We have to decide what do we need, how can we achieve this, and how can we include that into the curriculum. Of course, like all curricula, we have to benefit from what others have done before us, and we are very ambitious, and this is our plan that, of course, will be further developed and will take into account all the factors I referred to in the past. And of course, we will take account of the available knowledge, and also we will be collaborating with other countries and organizations. Dr. Salim said that we have to provide a better future for our children, and we have to take into account what is happening in the world. We will focus, as I said, on sustainable development, pollution, climate change, and all these subjects. We will be working on a program that will take into account all these matters. This will be done, of course, gradually from the grade 1 to grade 12, so that the concepts having to do with sustainable development will be included in all these stages of education. And of course, this will be done vertically and horizontally, and will take into account the international developments and the approach will be very clear, so that our curricula will be done in a very positive manner that will take into account all the matters I referred to, and so that will complement what you had already. We have to take into account the social developments also, and that will be taken account of in our approaches. And also our planning, as I said, will take account of these matters. Personally, I put forward the study for the environment, and this is one of the important studies that will be taken into account. We are, of course, working to have social development, and we have to make clear that solidarity is extremely important. And this is, of course, a part and parcel of the new regime we're trying to build. There will be no discrimination, no gender discrimination, and no racial discrimination at all in our new curriculum. As for evaluation, of course, the evaluation will take account of what is happening, and this, when done, will take into account all the new developments and the results achieved for the major problems that we have faced during the implementation of this 5-year program. And this will be extremely important so that we can really evaluate the system and fail to improve it further in the future. This is our objective, and I hope that we'll be able to implement all this. And by so doing, I think we have prepared the citizen to live in this century, and that they will really be dealing with all the matters discussed and implemented on the international level. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Brenda. I'd like to congratulate you on this achievement. I hope that you will continue your efforts on the local and national levels in order to have sustainable development in your curricular program. Thank you very much. Now we removed Dr. Ibtisam Ayoub, the Secretary General of the Jordanian Ministry of Education. So we'll be talking about the achievements made in Jordan and how they included SDG in their programs. You have the floor, madam. Thank you. I will try to share the screen. Can you see that on the screen? No, we can't see it for the time being, says the chairperson. Can you please do that, Musaid Mahmoud or Ili? Can you please try to help? I think some of our colleagues are trying to help Ibtisam Ayub from Jordan to share the screen with us.
اوكي
لا بعد محمود.
يلا انا ready.
Okay. يلا go ahead please.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thanks to UNESCO for allowing us this opportunity to give you an idea about our experience in Jordan in the field of education. I don't see the slides on the screen. I don't see them.
نعم تفضل.
Okay, now you can see them. Yes. Jordan adopted the program for implementing the SDG 4, and also we provided for that in our plan so that we can achieve SDG 4 by involving all the partners in this field. Education is extremely important in order to achieve SDGs, the 17 SDG goals. On the national scale, the next slide, I will start with a policy. In Jordan, we had a national strategy for developing human resources for 2016 to 2025, which focused on the importance of education, that the early childhood and improving the curricula and evaluation and vocational training, and also we also had a vision, Jordan 2025, which relates to improvements in the economic and educational fields. We prepared a lot of plans for different Jordanian institutions. We try to integrate this into one plan of action and take into account, of course, the social development goals in our strategy. We refer to what has been presented by the Ministry of Education for 2018 and 2022, which focused Jordanian's efforts on achieving SDG 4. It included, the strategy, the national strategy. It prepared the Ministry of Education. It included a number of important matters like early education and preschool education, equality for the children, the quality of education, human resources, and vocational training. We can say that we have included SDG 4 in this plan and strategy. As my colleague from Lebanon said, we prepared the national report for what we have done for SDG 4 2015 until the end of 2019, and we included all the indicators and all the initiatives taken in the field of education. It was a rich report which referred to those initiatives. And of course, not only the Ministry of Education was involved, but also other partners as well. In our experience working in this field to achieve SDG 4 and what has really been achieved, for that matter, that we are investing this in education for sustainable development by putting into place what we have tried to put in the plan by implementing those plans, and we started doing that in 2015. And of course, many sectors have been participating in that in order to increase the skills needed for this. Also, we have an initiative, as I said, Can I go back to the previous slide? Yes. Can I go back to the previous slide? Yes, this one, please. we set up a committee for sustainable development, and this committee is meeting regularly, and it will be working regularly with all the partners in Jordan in order to achieve all the 17 SDGs. This committee has been established from a number of sectors, and of course, it is provided by the Ministry of Education. Other ministries are taking part into this, the higher education and the research, and the Ministry of Commerce, the other institutions like vocational training. All these, of course, working as partners in this initiative in the field of planning and implementing the programs included. Also, we have a national committee for culture and science. And the duties of this committee will be 3 or 4-fold. We will have a number of objectives. Can you please move to the next slide? Not this one. I think we are going backwards. Well, these are the duties according to the programs and initiatives in the field of sustainable development, and all the participants in this respect, they will, of course, organize seminars and workshops in order to provide for a plan. Of course, I refer to a number of partners, but there are other partners who are working very actively in this field, and other partners will be added in the future, because we have a lot of NGOs and associations who are willing to participate, and they will be given the chance to do that. And we will provide all the information for them so that they can take active part. And also we'll put indicators for the future. Our experience was very good indeed when we started working for SDG 4, because we have some systems in the Ministry of Education that helped us a lot in order to achieve most of the indicators we have started with. And also, we made a lot of progress in SDG, and in the final analysis, national reports will be prepared for SDG 4. As for the 5 fields referred to by Mr. Salim at the work plan, I can see that in the policies, the Constitution, of course, refers to the importance of education, and we have also the education law, which refers to that obligation. Education is obligatory, and also because of the Syrian crisis, as you know, because we have a lot of refugees, and this had a lot of effect and impact on our projects, because we had a lot of Syrian students who came as refugees, and we are trying our best in order to provide education for these refugees. We also put forward the strategy to end discrimination. Jordan is one of the countries which signed a lot of international organizations like CEDAW and other international agreements, and we are doing our best in order to include that in our national programs. For learning, of course, we are focusing on providing everything we can in order to have an important infrastructure, and we have managed to do a lot of achievements. For vocational training, we are doing our best as well. And I can say that for the curricula, we have included the environment as a concept in all of these programs, and we have another projects that are being implemented. Also, climate change is included, and all the matters that the world is focusing on. And of course, 7 of the objectives of SDG 4 were included in our curricula. If they were not included in the curricula, they will be done as activities by providing training to the teachers, so that they can work with their pupils and students in this field. For the capabilities of teachers, we have provided training for most of them, and we have programs for the new teachers in service training programs, and we will have a special seat for them. We are doing our best in order to make this contribute to our plan. And we're providing training in this respect for teachers.
As for the fourth field, there are many stakeholders, not only the Ministry of Education, there is the Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of the Environment. All these ministries are involved. As far as the Ministry of Education is concerned, since we are a national commission, we have the associated schools which are involved with all activities related to sustainable development. With the Ministry of Youth, we focus on young people from 18 to 25. We 14 to 24 rather. We focus on the promotion of their skills and specific activities which would meet their needs. We have a great deal of activities in this field. As for the fifth field, it is at the local community level. We are always focusing on involving local communities, local institutions, and local organizations so that they can take part in the implementation of these projects. We also devise specific curricula within our schools whereby local communities are engaged. For example, we invite experts to address students so that they can have a critical role in this respect. In a nutshell, we can say that we work on the concept of learning cities. We have a cooperation with UNESCO in this field, and we undertake a number of important initiatives related to climate change, the protection of the environment. We did have an initiative in cooperation with the Secretariat of Oman, which is one of the learning cities. We took part in many initiatives related to the environment. As for the achievements, we have had a number of achievements in literacy work. Indeed, we were able to be awarded a literacy award, UNESCO King Sijigon in 2017, the Sustainable Development Prize from UNESCO in 2017 as well. We have submitted a report about our activities as well. As for the participation program, we have proposed a number of projects in the past and in this year. All these projects are related to sustainable development. For example, the protection of water resources through some water farming projects. For hydroponic farming, we involved local community because water problems are critical in Jordan. Could you please sum up, because we don't have plenty of time to give you. As for the projects, we, in the following slides, we have explained the various projects implemented in cooperation with UNESCO. With the support of associated schools, we were able to receive a number of prizes, and indeed, through these activities, we were able to involve students so that they can get a grasp of the concept of sustainable development and how best to contribute to achieving this goal. There are numerous challenges. For example, coordination between the various stakeholders can be difficult in order to implement the project. We did face a major challenge as well, that of securing education for refugees. We have a project whereby we were able to monitor the progress achieved so far. However, despite all these challenges, we were nevertheless able to achieve a great deal down the road of achieving sustainable development. The government is making every effort in order to implement these projects and assess them. So there are many positive results, and thank you very much. And I'm sorry for this lengthy presentation. Thank you very much for this valuable presentation. Thank you for shedding light on the importance of associated schools and their contribution to education for sustainable development. Thank you very much indeed. Mrs. Amna Balushi is the next speaker, who is the Secretary General of the Oman National Commission for UNESCO. Mrs. Balushi, Mrs. Amna Balushi, you have the floor.
Mahmoud, please, if you can, إذا ممكن تشيل الشير screen.
Mahmoud, could you remove the former presentation from the screen?
أستاذة آمنة ممكن بس بدنا
Mrs. Amina, could you test the mic? Could you unmute so that we can hear you? Could you test? Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Would you share the presentation with us, madam? Can you see it? Can you see my presentation?
نعم تفضلي.
Yes. The name of God, merciful and compassionate. Good afternoon. I am indeed happy to take part in this meeting in order to tackle the efforts of the Sultanate of Oman in order to prepare a roadmap for ESD. As is well known, there are 5 areas for this roadmap, which are the mainstay or the foundation for our national work. the Sultanate of Oman started with the setting up a national working group. And there are many activities undertaken by the Sultanate of Oman. We have the general policies, the education and learning environment. I was indeed honored by assuming a responsibility in this field. There are many efforts undertaken by the Sultanate of Oman. We have started with the general policies. One of the most prominent policies tackling the issue of education is the Oman Vision for 2020-2040. There are 11 strategic orientations, one of which is related to education, and the SDG 4 and the targets related to it. We have the document related to education philosophy in Oman, sustainable development, citizenship, and human rights. There are other strategies, the National Strategy for Education 2040, the 5-year plan 2020-2025. The second field is related to the data related to education and curricula. We wanted to have an idea about the curricula. We analyzed the curricula because in a periodic way, we analyze the education content, and that would be an opportunity to add new concepts. For example, there are many subjects such as fighting poverty, gender equality, production, sustainable production and consumption patterns, peace, understanding and cultural diversity, citizenship, Islamic values and citizenship, human rights, the rights of the child. There are many concept notes, 2017, and climate change issues as well are tackled. In addition, the ministry initiated a number of significant initiatives in cooperation with the associated school with UNESCO, and this within the framework of the integrated school pattern. We focus on education and curricula. The third field is capacity building for teachers. We have Tivet activities and an institute specialized in training teachers on the basis of a specialized approach. We devised a new curricula which is based on education for sustainable development goals as identified by UNESCO. Our institute is tapping every opportunity because of the COVID-19 pandemic in order to study again and revisit the school curricula. Young people, they do have a great deal of activities in the Vision 2020-2040, there is a share allocated to young people. We involve young people in devising our policies related to social and economic development, and thus we have promoted the creation of a number of youth organizations such as the Sada al-Shabab, the Echo of Young People. It is an association that is contributing with innovative ideas in order to achieve sustainable development and contributing to the implementation of the concept peer-to-peer learning. Local community is also a major stakeholder. Thus, our government focused on partnership with local community organizations as far as climate change, environment, sustainable economic development, and securing sustainable solutions at the local level. There are a number of civil society organizations that work in harmony with the various ministries. We have the geologists, the Women Association, and other associations. There are also the associated schools, young people's associations. We have the initiative of Green Schools Initiative, the climate change is one of the initiatives undertaken by young people. We have the Sultan Qaboos UNESCO Prize for the protection of the environment. This is a prize that is awarded on a yearly basis to the most creative association in the field of sustainable development within the school environment. It is a prize that is open to all students. However, and despite all these efforts, we would have liked to achieve more in the field of sustainable development. And that is why we had to identify the challenges so that we can overcome them and respond to the necessary requirements. There is a challenge related to the lack of monitoring and the data collection. And that is why we need to work with all stakeholders, such as the National Statistics Institute, the different centers and institutions that can provide us with the data. We do need partnership and integration with the various stakeholders. We need partnership, but not only partnership, we need integration with the various governmental and non-governmental organizations, the public and private sector, with the local community. As far as the research work is concerned, there is a need to promote studies and research work, particularly in ESD. Building the capacities of teachers. Despite the efforts we've been making, we don't believe that we have yet lived up to the expected levels, and we do hope, God willing, to be able to achieve more. Obviously, with the necessary cooperation with the UNESCO field offices and specialized institutes and centers. We believe that we need to move to the transformative approach. We need to learn how to learn. We have to practice what we learn. in order to achieve the goal of sustainable development. How can we best achieve this goal, and how can we implement the roadmap? We do have a national working group entrusted with this task. However, we need to expand its remit. Why? Because we need to give this group a broader competence. There should be a broader contribution of the local community and young people. We need to involve civil society associations. There are other associations representing young people. On the basis of Vision 2040, we need a new perspective, a new policy which would promote education for sustainable development. What are the main features of these policies? We do need more work by this working group. We need a clear identification of the activities undertaken, and our work should be based on proper benchmarks and indicators. Cooperation with the private sector, civil society organizations should be done within the framework of Oman Vision 2040. However, the role of UNESCO is critical in order to achieve success, in order to implement these numerous initiatives at the national level. We do need work with UNESCO. Thus, we believe that UNESCO has a great deal to assist in this field in promoting our work through the consultation undertaken with the countries of the region. There could be a great deal of help. This very meeting is one example of these activities. Technical support from Doha office and Beirut office is critical. I'm sorry, I tried to keep to the time allocated to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Amna, for this rich presentation, and you have a clear vision for the future. We wish you every success. I think that there are lots of questions that will be raised, but because of the time limit, we will not be able, of course, to listen to all the questions, but we have to define who are going to ask questions. But before we move to the question and answer, we will be giving the floor to Riyad Taifour, and he is working at the Minister of Education in Syrian Arab Republic. He will give us what they are doing in Syria in this field. You have the floor, sir.
أسعد الله أوقاتكم جميعا.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. At the outset, I should like to convey a message from Dr. Darem, the Minister and the Chair of the National Commission to UNESCO. This message conveys some ideas and suggestions which are likely to improve our work. And then I shall identify some issues we want to tackle. Ladies and gentlemen, many international organizations adopted Agenda 2030. Such an agenda adopted in September 2015 by all countries members of the United Nations in order to combat poverty and arrest climate change. These countries adopted this ambitious plan, which is a sine qua non condition to reach our goals, namely sustainable development and the achievement of the 17 SDGs. However, despite the support of the United Nations given to the implementation of this agenda, reality shows a different trend. Troops and armies are deployed everywhere. These military expenses are exhausting our resources. Wars are undermining our livelihoods. We have seen a recession, a huge decrease in our local currencies value, in addition to the deterioration of our natural resources, which is a major threat to the future prospects of future generation. These are not the foundations of a sustainable development. All these conditions and circumstances led to a feeling of lack of trust in the education system. They led to a deterioration of the living conditions, to an increase in poverty rates, and they led to the undermining of the necessary conditions for the SDG achievement. Thus, we believe to tackle development prospects from a new perspective. We need to tackle the issues of conflicts, hegemony, trends. These steps are a sine qua non condition to help young people recover their trust in us. There is no other planet, and we have to be sincere with our children. We should not let the SDGs mere figures, or we should not pay merely lip service to these objectives. We should put an end to economic and armed wars. We have to secure the conditions for peace and prosperity in our region so that we can focus on our sustainable development. This is the end of the message conveyed by His Excellency the Minister. And now I will submit my presentation, which is related to the roadmap devised by Syria in order to achieve ESD 2030. If you allow me, I shall share with you my presentation on the screen. As is well known, the Arab Syrian Republic is focusing on sustainable development and the quality conditions of such endeavors. We involve all national stakeholders. There is no doubt that these initiatives are always they can always be improved. However, I shall focus on the relevant ministries entrusted with this task. First, the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education has devised these curricula on the basis of ESD and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We have a number of curricula related to agriculture, tourism, industry, trade, from 4th grade to the 9th grade. We have a number of projects. One of them is related to young people, entitled Get Ready to Join School in English. We have activities for children in kindergarten and primary school, as well as secondary school. As for the education of the Ministry of Education, Higher Education and Scientific Research. There are many ministries which are specialized in Tivet. This ministry has prepared a number of plans related to scientific research. It is following the quality education. It is working on the promotion of digital tools in the field of scientific research. I would like to stress here that our country is the only country in the region that is providing education free of charge totally. For the Ministry of Agriculture and Agricultural Reform, this ministry is focusing on the sustainable use of natural resources, taking into account climate change factors. We included within these curricula subjects related to the best use of natural resources. So we have organized field sessions for farmers and animal breeders. The Ministry of Culture, it is organizing a number of sessions for literacy and education for adults. We promote the curricula which are aimed at achieving literacy work. We have also launched a number of programs. One program is related to children from 5 to 15. It's a program that is implemented outside school. It is related to the cognitive and emotional learning. There is a program related to the ways of debating for adults and young people so that they can introduce themselves, they can express their ideas while respecting the opinions of others. There is another program which is related to the positive change within local communities. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much, Ms. Dr. Taifour, for this a valuable presentation. We should like to thank all speakers. You have focused on the importance of national involvement and the need to seek to achieve SDGs in general and ESD in particular. We should like to thank you for these presentations, and obviously there are a number of questions put.
We'll move to the question and answer sessions. We will, of course, take some questions because time will not allow us to listen to all. I will focus on the questions which are aimed at certain speakers. Dr. Rania, the question to you about the impact of COVID-19 on the efforts you are doing in Lebanon, and specifically for distance learning. Yes, of course, COVID-19 was a disaster. It had an impact on education system and our 5-year plan. But at the same time, it was good for us so that we had to make additional efforts in order to achieve what we are planning. It's not only COVID-19 which impacts us, but as you remember, the Beirut explosion, which had a negative impact on our 5-year plan. We were trying to rebuild some schools, but because of that disaster, of course, we were unable to do that. And 92 schools were supposed to be built, but we were unable to do that because of that disaster. Therefore, we are facing continuing challenges. COVID-19, of course, had a negative impact on our plan and on schools in particular. We held workshops in order to provide learning for the pupils, even so they can work from home if possible. So, of course, I heard your question. I hope that I managed to give you an answer. Thank you very much. If you have any other questions, of course, you can send them later to you. Thank you, Dr. Rania. The question to Ibtisam Ayub, one of the main challenges that are facing the implementation of this initiative in Jordan. Can you please unmute your microphone? Well, thanks for the question. Maybe I refer to one of the challenges, that coordination between the different sectors, because many people are working in this field. Sometimes limiting these initiatives might not be enough because we have an overall plan that includes all the sectors. Sometimes it is difficult to coordinate between these different sectors, and this is a main challenge. Sometimes data collection is extremely difficult. We have so many initiatives for ministries and associations, and sometimes we had initiatives for some schools, and we had to find data from different sources. So there were many challenges. And as you know, of course, COVID-19 had a negative impact on that. We try to work on distance learning. It was a positive step because most people were very enthusiastic to move to this kind of education. And this, of course, took us a lot of time in order to provide learning through this system. We have made some achievements, but because of COVID-19, of course, some projects were not implemented in full, and the implementation, of course, was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. As I said in my presentation, our work will continue, and I hope that we will be able to achieve what we had set in our plan, and will be able to implement the projects as they have been envisaged. And maybe we will need to make some amendments and some maybe changes here and there for in the field of distance learning. We will do our best in order to achieve those objectives we have set ourselves. Thank you very much. I will give one last question. Some questions were made to UNESCO. Mr. Salim will refer to them. Before moving to Ms. Monica, there's a question to Ms. Anis, talking about the youth and the youth. How can we implement the initiatives being done by the local communities, and how can we allow more people to take part in that? Thank you very much about the role of social. This is, I think, the most difficult question. I'm just joking. For youth, I will refer to our experience in the Sultanate of Oman. We need, of course, a lot of channels we can use in order to reach the children, the youth, sorry. In the past, we had a committee for that. All the initiatives taken by the youth should come through this committee. And now we are involving other ministries like the Ministry of Sports and Culture. And these ministries are dealing with the young people and with the universities. And we have a lot of associations that focus on youth problems. I referred to a number of them in my presentation. And these associations are working within the umbrella of the Ministry of Social Affairs and the Ministry of Sports. This is well-organized work. I will not say that it will be 100% or perfect, but we involve a lot of youth, and we are quite sure that at least more than 90% of the youth will be involved. Is there any question or any part of the question? No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I thank all the participants and those who made the presentations. We'll move to our second part of the meeting. We are very sorry because we are very late. In this part of the meeting, we will focus on two matters, climate change and youth. We welcome the speakers, Mrs. Monica Froli, Chief Executive Officer for Ban Ki-moon Center for Global, and Mr. Moon from Lebanon, who is active in sustainable development. I would like to say that the two presentations will be in English. So we can, of course, listen to the either to French or Arabic, and you have, of course, interpretation in both Arabic and French. I would like to introduce Mrs. Monica Froling. Thank you for participating in this meeting. We would look forward to your presentation on the importance of climate change and how can we deal that with the SDG and according to the vision and the achievements and what is taking place in Ban Ki-moon Center. Welcome, Monica, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Thanks to UNESCO and all of the country representatives. It's a privilege to be here. For the sake of time, I will not share a PowerPoint, but will just tell you to save the minutes that we need. My name is Monica Fröhler. I am the CEO of the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens. Many of you will know Ban Ki-moon, the former Secretary General of the United Nations. Many of you will also know that he is really enthusiastic about two things. One of them is the SDGs, the Agenda 2030, and the other one is the Paris Climate Agreement. So it's very natural that all of your efforts that you have delineated, the roadmaps that you are devising, the curricular revisions that you're undertaking are absolutely crucial. We are now in a year where many things have to happen, and allow me to structure my 5-minute, 7-minute max intervention into two big pillars. One of them is what is the political pathway from Berlin to Glasgow. So what we have witnessed in Berlin has to be taken to COP26. That will be my major first message. And in my second pillar, I want to give you a bit of an idea of what practically is currently done in Europe and beyond and by the Ban Ki-moon Center, but I will be brief. So let's look at the journey this year. We have witnessed Berlin with ESD was a major success. We had many countries, many ministers basically pledging in the Berlin Declaration that ESD will be enshrined in national curricula. This is very promising. And yet what we need is not only the educational ministers, we also need the environmental ministers. And how to do that? Best of all, we should utilize all of the highlight moments this year to make that happen. So that, let's say, the Minister of Education of Oman and the Minister of Environment of Oman, of Jordan, of Syria, of Lebanon and of many other countries are featuring together in a side event at COP26 or maybe even a major event to basically both say and declare that they will be working on enshrining ESD into all levels of education, primary, secondary, tertiary, but also informal education. So really from preschool to lifelong learning. That would be amazing and is the goal of an initiative that we have started together with UNESCO and SDSN, which you probably know as the Sustainable Development Solution Network, Columbia University, and also our friends from Global Schools and many partners, including the Holy See, as one that is carrying this message forward. So where do we look at the highlight moments again? Berlin was happening now. The next highlight moment would be at the high-level political forum, where the international community is dealing with the SDGs. So we are hoping that many of you are conducting events in matters of Target 4, 4.7, and that you are showcasing what you're doing with your curricular developments, with your roadmaps. Secondly, we would like to, of course, see that even during the General Assembly, the UN General Assembly, education and SDG 4 is captured at the forefront of major efforts in countries. And if we go further down in the calendar, you will know that Glasgow COP26 is happening in November. And we are hoping to have in November ministers of education, ministers of environment, building an alliance and really pushing for ESD and global citizenship education in the framework of COP26. In addition, as you know, the year will end with the UNESCO annual conference in November, and we are hoping that many of you will be able to showcase your efforts and will be very illustrative of how to do the reforms that are so necessary. Now, shifting from this more theoretical part, Ban Ki-moon Center is part of a so-called Mission 4.7 that I already alluded to. Do check it out on our website. Become part of it. We are in need of governments that are speaking out in unison for including ESD. How do we practically foster the agenda? How do we really push it forward? Practically, whenever you're doing policy work, you need to showcase that it's actually working on the ground, because otherwise you will not make your case in point. So the Ban Ki-moon Center, of course, together with countries, together with UNESCO and international organizations, we are conducting fellowships, scholarships, mentorships, and many programs where we are introducing the youth and also particularly women to concepts such as ESD and global citizenship education. And we are very fortunate that one program already took place for the Arab region. We are hoping for another one happening in 2022, are currently still looking at donors. This training program creates so-called SDG microprojects, meaning that our trainees are implementing SDG microprojects in country, respectively, reaching hundreds of other change makers. And we are happy to be able to report 700,000 people have been reached by Ban Ki-moon Center programs only in the year 2020. And that despite COVID, because people on the ground still continued their work in the digital space, in the schools, in the online teaching. And we're very eager to not let the ESD topic and the SDG topic at all fade away, but rather keep the torch up for it. So let me close for not using more time. If you're interested in the work of the Ban Ki-moon Center, if you're interested in Mission 4.7, in the political pathway and in practical best practice cases, check out our website, www.bankimooncenter.org. I will put it in the chat, and over to you, Elias, for the youth aspect.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Monica, for your very valuable contributions to this meeting and also for highlighting briefly yet very eloquently some of the key areas of action, as well as identifying recommendations for policymakers in the Arab region on ESD. Thank you, very much appreciated. Moving on to Elias. Elias, as we know, your organization, Organisation de Développement Durable, is a key partner for UNESCO on engaging and empowering youth leaders in the Arab region on ESD. So building on that, what do you think are the main mechanisms, opportunities, or perhaps tools to enhance youth participation and leadership, particularly for influencing policy making on ESD in their countries and in the region?
Thank you, Mona, for leading this session. And just to respond to your question in the quickest possible way, I do want to highlight the importance of what Monica was sharing now with us about, let's say, organization like Ban Ki-moon Foundation doing for the youth. But then when you come to the Arab world, I went through some numbers, and this is, I think, the major issue. When you see that 85.1% of the youth work in informal sector, this shows they are not really supported by their government. They are not really embraced by their government. When you see that 23% out of them are out of work, and within this number, you see that the women are double. It means this is also another detail we can go into it. But then all over the world, the average of the youth lack of out of work is 11.8. So you see there is a huge amount of youth who are not being supported to find jobs. And when you see per states that the majority of the youth all over the Arab state are not really happy with the opportunity they're being given to work. And then you can take it as well that 25 million out of youth out of 110 million youth considered in the Arab world, they do not have access nor education, nor employment, nor training. So these numbers show that we have a gap somewhere that we're not trying to fill it. UNESCO, let's say, is doing a huge effort, and this is the work we're doing with them, reaching out to youth and working with them. It means we formed around 130 youth leaders from the Arab world that reach out on the spot to around 2,000 people. But then, you know, the majority of these youth do not collaborate with their government. The majority do not have access to the government. And then when I was in the Berlin meeting, you hear all the government speaking about youth, about the project. And it makes me wonder, is this for real, or this is more about transmitting and saying things? Because obviously all the youth are trying to flee the Arab world to go to Europe, and you see them, they are excelling over there as well, because they want opportunity, they want to be embraced. And this is the important role of EST, is to find balance between education and empowering the youth, because they are the change maker. We cannot tell them you are change maker and we don't support them. We cannot tell them that you are gonna be the future leader of the world and you don't have any decision making in your government from now, because every decision taken now, it will shape the future. And when you look at also other data, you see that people below 30, let's say, process data in different way than above 30. And here we can anyway, but you see the majority of the people in power are really all people that they look at things maybe from another perspective, and they do not understand the perspective of how you think. And this is, you can think about it as if you are in a family, you always have issues with your kids, telling them, no, you need to do that, while they think in the stuff from another perspective. And just because they are living perspective differently, they look at things in a different way. I'm just going to end up with this. It was interesting to see a study presented by Andrea Schleider, which is the Director of Education and Skills and Special Advisor on Education Policy to the Secretary General, that showcases that the people who are most sensitive to the topic of climate change and transformation are the youth, but they have the least self-esteem. They have the least self-esteem, and they don't believe they are capable to make the difference. This is why empowerment is important. This is why we need to be embraced by everyone, by the governments, by the UN agencies, and also to open up to these people to contribute and co-create the changes in our government, in our community, from local to regional. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elias, for sharing the voice as well as the perspective of the stakeholders, the key stakeholders on the other end of the spectrum, such as youth and civil society, whose role is also as meaningful and important. I will switch now back to Arabic. Thank you. شكرا جزيلا لإلياس, لمونيكا ولكل.
Thank you to Elias, Monica, and all the speakers who took part in this technical meeting. We should like to reiterate our thanks to the participants and the working group at UNESCO, those who helped us from behind the scenes. Link, Elena, Noor, Eli, Osama, all these colleagues have given us a great deal of help. We should like to go back to our colleague Salim for the closing remarks. Salim, you have the floor. Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you to all participants. I am indeed happy to reiterate my thanks to all the participants. We were indeed honored to welcome you today. We should like to thank the representatives from Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Oman for their presentations about the roadmap for ESD. Should like to thank Hannah and Monica for their presentations. And before finishing this meeting, I should like to talk about the way forward and how to achieve best the ESD goals. At the outset, I should like to talk about what has been debated during the international meeting held in mid-May at UNESCO. First, the participants agreed that education is the cornerstone for any development in terms of sustainable development and climate change. Country initiatives should be comprehensive. They should tackle climate change, the protection of the environment. All the Berlin Declaration on ESD identifies a number of factors that take into consideration Tivet, education, community participation, sustainable development, the promotion of skills, emotional and cognitive skills, in addition to working capabilities. We should like to focus on the assistance given by UNESCO. UNESCO supplies a number of guidance material, which is of great help to member countries in devising their national initiatives and the roadmap. Every country committed to the national initiative should be linked to the ENET 2030. There should be an exchange of knowledge and mutual learning, cooperation in exchanging experiences, peer-to-peer learning, and cooperation, which would lead to facilitation of dialogue. Member countries should be the leading agents in promoting cooperation in the implementation of cooperative activities, advocacy work. There should be awareness-raising campaigns in order to promote the support for these goals. Agenda 2030 should be the subject that is monitored, and specific reports about the implementation of the SDGs should be submitted on a regular basis. In addition, ESD and Sustainable Development number 4 should be followed up. I should like to recall that member countries should review their national plans, and UNESCO, in addition to the generous support of the government of Japan, is of great help to member countries. Now I should like to move another subject, Tivet, technical and vocational education. UNESCO has a strategy related to the Tivet activities for the young people from 16 to 24, and such a strategy commands the support of member countries. We have to focus on Tivet in the Arab region, because in this region, technical and vocational training is rather underestimated, and therefore we should promote the value of Tivet. We should fill that gap between the young people who graduate from technical and vocational schools and the job opportunities. And in addition, digital skills should be included in this training. In fact, under COVID, we were able to realize the importance of digital skills, and therefore digital skills should be part and parcel of the Tivet training. Tivet training should give graduates ample employment opportunities. So far, these opportunities are not enough. And that is why we believe that companies with special needs should promote such training. We have to take into consideration the market needs when we devise our training in vocational and technical education, in order to prepare in the best way the graduates. Curricula should be enhanced, green economy should be promoted. In addition, training the trainers should be one major asset. We in the Beirut office, we have organized a training session entitled Training for Leadership. 55 participants took part, and we focused on 8 modules in this training session. We focused on the leadership skills. We started on the 30th of May, and this session will end next month. We obviously, by doing this, we focus on young people, because they are the future. Technical and vocational education is of paramount importance to this part of the world. In conclusion, I should like to thank all panelists and speakers, and we hope to see you, God willing, in the future in another meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Salim. Our thanks go to all participants, and our thanks go to the representatives of the various ministries and national commissions, particularly our colleague Christiane Rauda. Our thanks go to the interpreters as well. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good day, and thank you.